Before we dive in, please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the description below as to whether you've quit your job or changed jobs in the last 2 years, i.e. during the pandemic. I'd be interested to know, plus I think this is going to be highly relevant for you. So without further ado, let's dive in. So a new viral video has many young people wondering whether they are putting too much effort into their work. This has in turn led to a movement called quiet quitting. Originally highlighted in late July 2022, a video posted on the social media network TikTok, a young man is sitting in a New York subway station endorsing the concept of quiet quitting. You are still performing your duties, but you are no longer subscribing to the hustle culture mentality that work has to be your life, so the man says. Now this 17-second video, which has been viewed almost 2.6 million times in the week after it was posted, has become one of the biggest issues on the minds of Gen Zers. Those are the newest entrants to the workforce. In what they state is not going over and above beyond their specific work duties, quiet quitting is putting a stake in the ground for expectations. From a leadership perspective, this is a reflection of unmotivated or disengaged employees, or worse, a growing benchmark for the level of effort employees will put in when taking on a new role. Is that right? To be sure, smart companies today endorse the concept of healthy work-life balance and tell managers to reinforce this all the time. But modern corporations often thrive on having motivated workers eager to make a big impact for themselves and their companies. Organisations are dependent on employees doing more than a minimum, says Mark Royal, a senior director for Korn Ferry Advisory. But let's face it, the issue of employees being checked out at work isn't new, of course. I mean, for decades, people have been coasting or checked out with the phrases used by employees doing the bare minimum. This implies their minds were elsewhere, and could often be seen when unhappy in a role or when working out the notice period before moving on to a new role. Now, experts say quietly quitting might be trending now, in part because of how far the job market has swung in favour of workers over the last 2 years. There is no doubt that the power balance between employees and employers has been reset. This is a greater equilibrium in terms of who holds the power, and in my opinion, this is a good thing on the whole. If we were being frank though, coasting employees aren't worried if their bosses fire them anymore, because they'll just find a new job. The issue is that this mentality may already be out of date, because I must admit, when I first heard about quiet quitting, I thought of somebody sneaking out of the office to never to return. Although the dream escape, i.e. walking off into the sunset, sounds ideal at times, it turns out that quiet quitting is a controversial term about doing the bare minimum and setting boundaries in the workplace. Defined as the counterpart to the hustle culture, while the trend to give everything for the job lasted for a long time, it's become apparent in the course of the pandemic that many people only do the minimum for their job. That is, what is contractually agreed. Overtime and sacrifice in private life are no longer tolerated. Now for me, this represents all sorts of conundrums. It could be the impact of the morale on a broader team through actual or perceived disengagement. It could set completely the wrong precedent for any other employees, especially looking at new joiners. It could also just allow people to coast along. These all represent real and difficult challenges for companies and in turn, management of those companies. So why is quiet quitting on the rise right now? Having researched about this worrying trend, there seem to be several theories as to why quiet quitting is gaining momentum. One of the most plausible seems to be that the pandemic has shown that employees to be expendable to the companies that they work for. This could be despite having given it their all for many, many years. I mean, simply being released from work or being converted to part-time does not leave a good taste in the mouth of the employee and can often lead to consideration of whether all those sacrifices made were worth it at all. If the answer is no, it would only be a logical response to say, well, if that's how you treat me after all that, then why don't I just do the absolute minimum at work? I could certainly understand that approach, even if I don't endorse it. It is rather unsurprising then that many come to exactly this conclusion. From what I gather, another reason why quiet quitting is becoming increasingly popular is the ongoing generational shift. With the retirement of the baby boom generation, certain values and beliefs are also flowing away. Instead, the beliefs of millennials and Gen Zers are becoming increasingly present. For example, these include clear separations between work and leisure. Mottos such as work to live, while older generations often consciously or unconsciously adopted the live to work mentality. There is no doubt that shifts like this in the workplace are a result of wider factors, but it is causing uncertainty across many industries. That said though, why shouldn't employees do their job description and not go above and beyond? If we are operating on a purely transactional basis, then in principle this could work. But I don't think work is just transactional. At least not in the widest form, because Yes, we go to work to earn money, but I believe that it is more than that. Perhaps the bigger issue is that many people don't like their jobs. In a recent poll, a staggering 82% of people said that they didn't like their current role. Now, taking such stats in isolation is never a true representation, but this disengagement, giving credence to the quiet quitting movement, is quite worrying. Honest answer is I don't know if it's giving credence to it, but it feels like it could be a major factor. The younger generations are experiencing a world of work far more different from the baby boomers and Gen Xers from whom they are likely working for. This is intergenerational overlap. This can easily turn into conflict, not in the physical sense, but in working styles, goals and approaches. We currently live in the age of instant gratification, and this is only exacerbated by the younger generations. Everything is wanted now. Immediate work-life balance, quicker promotions, more money. Everybody wants to be in control. Now, whilst I can't disagree with wanting these topics, there is a worrying trend that implies that they want it now without working for it. More of an entitlement. Now, I'm very aware that this may make me sound old and grouchy, but that's what I've seen. Yes, times have changed since I qualified as an accountant, but does that mean questioning what is happening now is wrong? I had to balance working hard for 3 years with studying for exams, all under the watchful eye of Ernst & Young, with the pressure of losing my job if I failed my exams, all in order to earn a good wage. It was widely recognised that upon qualification the salary would jump up quite considerably, representing the achievement of a professional qualification and the hard work associated with it. In contrast, some of the entry-level jobs now have starting salaries way in excess of what my post-qualification salary was. Does this make me out of touch? I don't think so, but it does make you question what is happening. That's why the trend of quiet quitting has me all in a quandary. You see, I am all in favour of a work-life balance and flexible working. In fact, I would positively advocate it and will turn down future roles if this is not incorporated into that job. But the wanting something for nothing, or being very transactional over a job, sits uneasily with me. On one side, when recruiting for a role, you are in essence asking somebody to join you to perform the role you have advertised. I mean, that is clear. What is less clear is that often the role requires more than is stipulated in black and white in the job description. This is what is known as going over and above what is required. Part of this unwritten narrative is that many companies don't want to actually state what is required, as it means that the number of applicants will be much lower, potentially nil, or that the role will require far higher salary, more than they are willing to pay. The latter again conflicts with the point I was making a moment ago, because the rising starting salaries is all adding and compounding to this effect. But on the contrary, if you are employed to do a role and you perform that role well, but don't go any further, does that mean you're not fulfilling your job requirements? I mean, the blunt answer is no. If you are fulfilling what is being asked of you, then happy days. But when it comes to appraisal time, the reviews will likely say, you did what was asked, but didn't take initiative to do more, therefore a satisfactory rating, score, bonus, etc. is given. Is this right? Again, I'm not sure. Yes, it would be if it were on a transactional basis, but are expectations being set from the beginning if this is the case? Now, as a leader, I want people who are going to care about what they do. I want people to enjoy the role and be fulfilled. But this is just the person I am. Finding out whether someone is going to quietly quit, especially from the beginning, I would want to know about. But I have absolutely no doubt that HR would come down on me like a ton of bricks if I asked that in the interview process. So what do? I think it comes down to culture. What is the culture we want to create at work? Now, culture is all about behaviours, and behaviours are around what people do when nobody's looking. But that doesn't mean that the entire situation is not flawed, because it is. Technically, anyone doing what they were contractually obliged to do is fine. That's what they were employed for. But it still doesn't sit right. I have a strong belief that you should treat others as you want to be treated. Now, this is not contingent upon a working practice or a specific situation. It is how I operate. Full stop. I'll hold the door open for somebody, male or female, because it is the right thing to do. I'll say thank you to someone for helping because it is the right thing to do. I'll tell somebody what they need to know, even if it is bad news, because again, it is the right thing to do. In all of these situations, I would expect the same in return. Ultimately, it can be defined as you get what you give. You get out of life what you put in. And that's what comes back to my original point. A growing number of people want something for nothing. So they are not willing to put the effort in up front to get something back. And that's just not cool with me. I don't think there's an easy answer to this whole quiet quitting trend, and that's why it has sparked such a debate online. So, is quiet quitting morally acceptable? Now, if you're anything like me, the description of quiet quitting triggers a feeling of unease and frustration. Having led teams, I can see how the impact of quiet quitting will be negative to those around them. But then again, I've been on the receiving end in the early part of my career, certainly, where I had to do much, much more than I wanted to, all under the guise of it was expected to work brutal long weeks and/or weekends. But is quiet quitting actually inappropriate, or dare I say, even immoral? I don't actually know the answer to this because, to be quite honest, I'm torn between the two. Employees should have the right to perform what they are asked to. That's only fair. But this conflicts with what I would want as someone on my team. I want to create an environment and a culture that means we are all in this together. We do what we do when we need to do it. That's my ethos. Sometimes this means going over and above with a view of collectively achieving the desired outcome. Now, if the work being done is fun or enjoyable, this all helps. But it is a fine line with the expectation of additional benefits for doing the role required, i.e. additional time off, maybe additional bonuses or holiday or unexpected remuneration. But if not, there is a case that would imply that an employee can do what is agreed and no more. This would technically be legitimate and morally justifiable, but there is a growing feeling that in the modern age, no one should feel like they have to do something that doesn't fit in the agreed upon performance picture of the job. A question could be raised as to whether employers do for employees more than is contractually stipulated. Again, this could be a tough one to answer. In a hypothetical situation, why should the employee put in more if the employer isn't willing to do the same? I don't know, but far too often it is very much a one-way street. But whether it is okay to lean back and do perceive less than others and expect the same remuneration is a different question. I would err on the side of no in that case, but all of this sits uneasy with me. I really do hope quiet quitting isn't a trend that sticks around. Personally, I don't think mentally and emotionally checking out from a job you are in, whether you're happy or not, is the answer. No one wins in this scenario. The major problem is you could easily end up feeling less fulfilled and unhappy than you are in the first place. This then impacts on employers who aren't getting the engagement and therefore performance they are looking for. If it is about being unhappy in a role, I think you should always think about whether a conversation with the right person might solve that issue you have at work. Whether it be pay, development opportunities, flexibility, or whatever this is, could easily be dealt with open communication. But that's hard. Obviously, this doesn't always solve the problem and often means having tough or difficult conversations, but then it's always worth exploring alternative options if you're really unhappy in your role. But that just provides an easy scapegoat for the quiet quitting trend. And that's why it sits uneasily with me. Quiet quitting conflicts with wanting to do your best with taking the easy way out. Now, I understand both scenarios, but ultimately, I just don't think it's the right way to go. It sets the wrong precedent. It gives the wrong impression of people. But if that's all you've been signed up to do, then why not? What I would say is before you go down the quiet quitting route, have a conversation with your manager or your leader or your friends or colleagues to understand what the implications could be. Because once you start going down that trend and you've mentally checked out, it's very hard to bring it back. And that's it. If you like this video, I would highly recommend this one here where I talk about whether you should be part of the Great Resignation. I think you'll find it really useful, especially in the context of what we've just been through. But with that, have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.